Right.
Dax Harwood talks about the story of a little girl who was born with an irregular heartbeat, or at least at some point was a 5-year-old diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat, and it was later discovered that she had a hole in the bottom of her heart. It was a condition where the doctor told her if she worked really hard, she might not need open heart surgery to fix it. So 3 years later, the little girl works really hard, and the hole has closed up on its own. And he reveals that that 8-year-old little girl is his daughter. Gets a huge reaction from the audience.
Hmm.
And Dax says, if that little girl is willing to work that hard for something that's not promised to her, he has no excuse to not do the same.
Right.
And proceeds to close out this promo against the Briscoes on Saturday night, where he says, I'm going to fight like an 8-year-old girl. What did you think about this promo?
I thought it was excellent. This is a tasteful way to do real life stories and incorporate them into the wrestling show. Because I'm not a big fan of this. Like you, the Christian, he's good at delivery and he's good at playing that smarmy asshole thing. But this is like kind of a touching story, especially if you've had somebody in your family that has gone through something similar,
Mm-hmm.
or if you yourself are going through something similar. It's a very inspirational story, and I just love the delivery of this from Dax. Um, I love FTR, man. I think they are the best tag team in wrestling right now.
Completely agreed. And I mean, on that note, my nephew went through this exact same thing,
Right.
and I wanted to use this time to again shout out the Children's Heart Surgery Fund, which is the charity that Benno and Martin were trying to raise funds for. They did a tremendous job, going 150, like something like 1,500 pounds they raised for that particular charity. I believe the donation page might still be open, so follow at Bushby01 for a bit more about that. But as if anybody needed more reason to love FTR, like Dax pretty much like delivers the most personal promo of his entire career, and did it here, without I think a lot of time, in a very short amount of words, and just
Yeah.
what a rallying cry. And when we head to Saturday, it really looks like they are going to be the main event. So we're talking about FTR main eventing a pay-per-view all on their own here. It
And they should be the main event.
Absolutely. One
And,
of the
and I
hottest
and I
acts.
like the line I have in my notes over here. That's why I keep looking off to the side. Um, he said, "I'm gonna fight like a 8-year-old girl uh, this Saturday." I really thought this is one of the best promos that I've heard this year.
It really was tremendous, yeah.
Yeah.
And up until this point, we have not seen the Briscoes at all on this show, including their little kind of interview segment where they agreed to the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation that was aired exclusively on YouTube. So, I mean, you can continue to ask, like, is this part of that reported edict from somebody at Warner of not wanting the Briscoes on their TV? Doesn't seem to be preventing them from mentioning the Briscoes and mentioning this
Right.
main event, nor from Tony Khan, potentially putting the Briscoes up on that pedestal by putting them in this main event. So, I
Yeah, the
mean,
Bris. If you're a corporation, I understand. Just Warner Brothers Discovery, not wanting that team on television just yet. I don't know how much they've atoned, because it wasn't like, I think I can easily forgive like a racial slur, or even something like a homophobic slur, but that Briscoe did was he kind of talked about his feelings in that rant, and that's just not as easy. That's why I have such a hard time taking Hulk Hogan seriously. It wasn't like he just said the N word once or twice and moved on. He really went like knee deep in the woods with his feelings, you know. So
mhm.
I,
And
I I want the Briscoes to have success. I'm hope that they're sorry about that rant, and hopefully they do what they need to do to atone for it, because I definitely think that's still biting them in the ass.
One of the unfortunate things about, I think, our communication system is, and one of the terrible things that reminds us all that we should be careful with our words is
Yes,
that apologies get far less press than the initial incident that you might be in hot
right,
water for. And when it comes to the Briscoes, like we've had Ian Riccaboni on our show, and I believe Ian Riccaboni is has a sort of a background in, like, sex education, is a
mhm,
very outspoken about being an ally. He's spoken about the Briscoes, asking questions about various terms and various sort of, like, things that are maybe just out of curiosity, and also for wanting to get an education on um perhaps things that they were not as aware of in the past. And I just think that they're in this situation, like, if somebody like Riccaboni is willing to vouch for them, I'm willing to accept his take.
right,
But things like that aren't going to be as publicized as maybe when you just Google, like, the Briscoes, and what comes up. So um no matter what it is, like, it continues to be a discussion whenever you bring the Briscoes up about their past. And I wonder if Tony Khan is deciding to go further with them as part of, like, the Ring of Honor project, if
right.
some more public resolution needs to be presented that way.
Yeah. I'm because I one of my jobs is I work with people. I work with youth in jail, and I work with older people in jail. And I'm a firm believer that everybody deserves a second chance. And until especially for something like this, because you know that stuff comes from years like that, homophobia and racism and bullshit like that. It comes from like years of brainwash, and that can be unwashed from people. I've seen it with my own eyes. And like you said, the apology isn't getting as much story as the offense. So we'll see. We'll see. I think they'll be fine ultimately if Riccaboni is vouching for them. Um, I don't. I'm just me personally. I don't mind forgiving people, especially if they don't mess up like that again. That's just me.